Welcome to Tales of Bedlam. I'm your host, Knob Twister. And today with me is a very special guest, my wife, Andrea.
Hi there.
She's sitting in for my good friend, sofa sitter, who's feeling under the weather and could really use your thoughts and prayers. Today, we're doing a poem from Slavic folklore. It's called Rusalka. Rusalka is the Russian equivalent of a mermaid. They are featured in many Russian and Slavic paintings, operas, and novels. One of the most renowned homages to a Rusalka was written by poet Alexander Pushkin, which is the exact poem that we're going to read for you now. And then afterwards, stay tuned for a little more info on the Russian mermaid. So without further ado, the Rusalka poem. In a lakeside, leafy groves a friar, escaped of the world, out there he passed his summer days in constant prayer, deep studies and eternal fast. Already with a humble shovel, the elder dug himself a grave, and calling saints to bless his hovel, death, nothing other, did he crave.
So once upon a falling night, he bowed down beside his drooping shack, and meekly prayed to the Almighty. The grove was turning slowly black. Above the lake, the mist was lifting. Through milky clouds, across the sky, a ruddy moon was softly drifting, when water drew the friar's eye.
Nice. Feel free to insert any info that you would like to share with our listeners.
Okay.
As you can see from the very first, this is a rather dark poem. He looks, his heart is full of trouble. Oh, fear he cannot quite explain. He sees the waves rise more than double, and suddenly grow calm again. Then, white as first snow of the highlands, light-footed as nocturnal shade, there comes ashore and sits in silence upon the bank a naked maid.
Well.
Oh. I might point out that the Russian water sprites, or mermaids, as we would call them, actually didn't have tails like our Little Mermaid. But rather, they had legs that they would walk upon land with and dance and entice people with their sultry moves.
So kind of like a siren.
Yes. In fact, they're very closely related to the Greek sirens.
Interesting. So, she looks at him and brushes gently the hair and water off her arms. He shakes with fear and looks intently at her seductive, luscious charms. With eager hand she waves and beckons, nods quickly, smiling from afar, and shoots within 2 flashing seconds into still water like a star.
I think she's beckoning him to follow.
Starting to sound a little seductive here.
The glum old man slept not an instant. All night, all day, not once he prayed. Before his eyes still hung and glistened the wondrous girl's persistent shade. The grove puts on the gown of nightfall. The moon walks on the cloudy floor. And there's the maiden, young, delightful, reclining on the spellbound shore.
Is this PG? G-13?
Well, it could get worse.
Oh boy.
If this were a movie, it would be rated R.
She looks at him. Her hair she brushes, smiles, sends him kisses, sweet and wild. Plays with the waves, caresses, splashes, now laughs, now whimpers, like a child, moans tenderly, calls louder and louder. Here, monk, to me, then vanishes into limpid water, and all is silent instantly.
This monk really needs to return to his prayers, and he needs to get away from this beach because this can only end badly.
And is there not anyone else on there? No one else is on the beach and seeing this?
I don't know. I assume that this is a abandoned beach that a water sprite lives near. Maybe everybody else learned a lesson, and this Friar Tuck is, well, he's being seduced.
I think so.
On the third day, the ardent hermit was sitting on the shore in love, awaiting the voluptuous mermaid, as shade was lying on the grove. Night ceded to the sun's emergence. By then the monk had disappeared. It said a crowd of local urchins saw floating there a wet gray beard. And this is where Alexander Pushkin's poem ends. But I felt that there needed to be a little more explanation than a floating gray beard. So, for you, the listener, I wrote 3 more stanzas that I think fits well with this poem and gives a little bit more explanation of what happens to the hermit friar. So I just want to state that the next 3 stanzas were written by Knob Twister and not Alexander Pushkin. So take it away, dear.
She took him deep in blackened water. There she kissed him on the cheek. He opened wide his arms to caress her, yet found her not within his reach. Her whisper a soggy echo travels, the message lacking any grace. To me, come yet deeper, to death, beneath the waves.
Then he sudden realizes he cannot breathe beneath the waves. No choice has he but sinking deeper, ever closer to this dire maid. She swims in circles all around him. Fingers tickle, seeking mirth. Bring him to a raunchous laughter, another to avenge her death at birth.
Now he breathes the blackened water, never more to rise again. She looks into his eyes with wonder and watches as his soul descends.
Ooh.
Well, that got dark.
I wanted to encapture the interesting way that one of these sirens would, after obtaining her prey, dispose of them. And it's interesting that they would lure them into the water with their seductions, but then they would
Tickle him.
Yes. I thought that was amazing. They would tickle them to death, but it would make sense because they need them to open their mouths and drown.
And breathe the dark water.
That's right. So, in Slavic folklore, the mermaids would tickle you to death under the water.
And that's why there's no one on the beach.
Yes.
Good job.
Oh, boy. So, what was their motive for this?
The mermaids?
Yes, the mermaids or the water sprites. They say that the Rusalka was formed by an untimely death. So maybe a woman who had been cheated on or thrown away, who committed suicide, would then be brought back as a water sprite until her allotted time on Earth is over. Or there were even talks of babies that might have been defective, because it wasn't uncommon back then for a birth defect to have that baby drowned. So their idea was that these babies' spirits would remain on Earth until they were either avenged or their allotted time that they would have had if they weren't killed at birth runs out on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's messed up.
But there's also stories of them in good ways too, because they are keepers of the water and the plants that surround that water, whether it be a pond, a lake, a river, a stream. So,
Pool.
yes, any kind of water, you would find that they could bless the plant life and animal life that surrounded that water. So there were good things to them and bad. But they do seem to have been a sultry, seductive female that liked to torture men and kill them. Interesting.
Very.
A lot different than our little mermaid, huh? Ariel. Could you see Ariel tickling her prince to death under the salty water?
No. It's very different.
Under the sea. I killed him under the sea.
Disney puts a good spin on those.
Not everything's better. Down where it's wetter. Take it from me.
All right, then.
So if you liked our story / poem from Alexander Pushkin. Did I say his name right?
Knob Twister.
Pushkin. Yes, I said it right. And you'd like to hear more, then subscribe and tell a friend or family member, because the best way for you to help us is to let everybody know about us so they can come here, subscribe to, and enjoy our work. Keep my good friend
Sofa Sitter.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Keep my good friend Sofa Sitter in mind. Good night.
Good night.
That was a little raw, but oh well. We tried.
It was a short poem. Yeah.